And to tell you guys very quickly, I've known Will for a little while. And I'm half French, half American. My mother's from Paris, and I was born here. And my father's from the U.S. And I'm happy to say that I spent a lot of time in Maine throughout my life on MDI, and I miss it a little bit. So that's now I live here. It's been 2.5 years, and I like this place. I get back every once in a while, but Paris is a good mix of. It's a healthy mix of a little of everything. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
And how did you start your company?
So the company is, I've always loved, you guys can still hear me, I'm a little more on the road here. I've always loved museums. I'm not an art historian. I can't tell you who all the great artists are for the various periods and movements and all that sort of stuff. But museums have always been a great place to go spend some time with friends, go grab lunch, walk around. They're always in the middle of town. They're always in big, beautiful buildings. And I wanted to share that and to sort of get that across. And so I created a site. The idea is to make information accessible and shareable. Get people to see the social side of museums as much as the cultural side. And so I created something that didn't exist. This will be fun. So this is a road, and that's traffic. They're a little nuts here with their scooters. And hold on 1 second while I'm here. So there's French tradition is, we can't see very much of it. They give a lot of awards to la Légion d'honneur, the Legion of Honor. Is a award or a medal that's given to a number of soldiers, politicians, literary figures, artists, people who contributed to French society. And there's a museum there just across the street from the Musée d'Orsay, and it's not only a museum, but I think it's a place where they have access to. It's like a gentleman's club. And then here is the museum. That's the entrance there. That's a line I'm not going to get into.
No, attends, deux secondes. Wait,
I'm going the other way.
Attention, 2 secondes. They ne say pas what a gentleman's club is. They think it's for strippers.
It's a service entrance.
A gentleman's club is. Wait, Timmy?
Yeah.
Hold on 1 sec. We just need. They think there was a misunderstanding. A gentleman's club is like a private club where.
Oh right, that misunderstanding.
Yeah. Where you.
Come on, you guys.
Where you go and you just for lunch and.
Yeah, not that kind of gentleman's club. The cultural type.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we could clear that up a little bit. What was I saying? I was going on about the site, and so I launched it. I came to Paris 2.5 years ago to work for a hedge fund, and then this idea is just an idea I've had for so long, but I decided if I didn't do it now, I was never going to do it. And it's fun being an entrepreneur, and Paris is a great place to start a business, and especially a business around museums. So in that sense, I'm very pleased I did it. Is it going to work? We don't know yet, so stay tuned. But so far, museums are into it. Visitors are slowly learning about it, and I get to go visit museums and be all entrepreneurial.
Well, and you were in Germany a week. Wait, Tim, you were in Germany a week ago or so, right?
I was in London a couple weeks ago. Before that, I was in Germany. Before that, I was in Italy, Poland, Czech Republic, trips to the U.S. What am I forgetting here? I've been getting to move around quite a bit.
Canada,
but
you're in
it's part of the fun of building a business. You got to get in front of people. You got to meet them. You got to share with them what you're trying to do. They want to see some passion, and I think I can convey that. And so that's been the fun. But hopefully today I can show you guys why well, show you guys the museum that I hope one day you'll all come and visit, and the city that you'll all come visit, and show you guys why I get a kick out of spending my time here.
Awesome.
I'm going to go inside, and then I'll call you guys all back. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Bill?
yeah, that's perfect. We'll
Okay.
see you in a second.
And I call you. I'm calling your phone. Is that right?
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, just call my phone.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
I feel like my questions are relevant.
Why?
Why is it?
Because it's boring to go, like, in museums you have to, like, go through security and
Takes a while.
it takes like 5 or 10 minutes. I'm sorry to hold you guys up. So what do you think so far? Pretty cool, right? Kind of blows my mind that, like, we're talking to France over the Atlantic.
It's actually like a very good connection.
No, but you know what blew my mind? There were clouds, and there's the sun that's shining on the cloud. It's the same sun as that sun shining on those clouds out there. And it, oh my gosh, I feel so small. But it's fine. But it would be cool. It's fine. But also,
That's probably the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
No, I think it's interesting. I mean, it blew my
there's only
mind.
one sun.
It is weird to think that we're here and it's like talking and he's over there like.
Yeah, it's like the same.
Like you're talking to him,
But like,
and you just saw, like, you're in France, technically. I mean, like,
There's no,
you're
is there
6
6
hours.
hours.
It's 3:30 there.
my sister's
She has 5 hours.
yeah, my dad was
She's doing a semester.
So, if you think your questions are irrelevant, you can ask a different question if you want. Because he did kind of ask your question.
Yeah.
And his answer to your question, I talked to him about that yesterday. It's actually really interesting. Because I didn't know the answer myself. So,
Can I ask what is your favorite place you've seen?
yeah. He gets to go skiing next. He's going skiing in a couple weeks. He's a good guy, though, right? Very.
He's very good. I was really scared that he was going to be one of those like.
He's my friend.
I know. Yeah, that's why I mean.
He has certain characteristics that seem very similar to you, like some ways he talks and stuff. Remind me of
I was
your
gonna
rock.
say that.
Okay.
That's my alarm. I do that all the time.
I know. Here we are. Hey. Timmy? Timmy?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can't hear you.
You haven't muted.
Oh, you haven't muted. You pressed the microphone.
Hello?
Now it's
I can't hear you.
Turn on the TV and make the sound.
Oh, what up? What up? Bon.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we.
Okay. Okay. So here it is. Here's what used to be a train station. And as you can see, it's been totally redone to accommodate all these little people running around. And it's actually not very crowded today, which is quite pleasant. We are, Tuesday afternoon, so most people at the office. But what they did is, while this used to be all open with tracks, they've added these galleries on both sides. And as many of you, I'm sure, know, Musée d'Orsay is known as, it's got the largest collection of Impressionist paintings. So most of their collection is 1800, so 19th century going into the 20th century. So let's say mid 1800s to the very early 1900s. Now obviously they picked up some things in the meantime, but the Impressionists is really what this museum is known for. And I might add that I was at the Portland Museum of Art a few months ago, and they have a very impressive collection of Impressionist art. So if that's something that you guys like, then it'll give you, I thought of it as a mini Orsay. That was sort of my reaction, because I didn't expect it. And I thought it was a great little place in a beautiful city to go spend a little time and to see what they have to offer. So if you guys get down there, maybe it's time to take a little trip down to Portland, a little class trip down to Portland. But any event, and then as we look up, we have that big clock here. I'm at a pretty crappy angle to really see it, but we'll maybe come back to that later. I want to take you guys up to the Impressionist wing, because I think that's kind of the fun part. There's a fun restaurant upstairs too. If you guys want to come for a little walk with me,
sure.
That we can go see. See how we're going to do this. Go up the stairs here. Well, you guys will always be able to say you've been to the Musée d'Orsay. Like this. If you guys have any questions.
Yeah, do you want to start? So, can we start asking you questions? Tim?
Yeah.
Can we start asking you questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly what you guys should do.
Okay, so we're going to start. Introduce yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Emily McCarthy.
Je m'appelle.
Je m'appelle Emily McCarthy.
Here.
Timmy.
Timmy?
I can't hear you.
Oh, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay. Here.
Okay.
If you want to put it, can you see? Yeah.
So je m'appelle Emily McCarthy. Et,
Bonjour.
Et à votre avis, ce qui fonctionne et ne fonctionne pas dans le système de santé en France?
Ça, c'est une très très bonne question. I would say, here, let me turn this around again. There's a bit of an echo in that room, so I'm just gonna. I think that there's a fundamental difference. You can hear me, right?
Oh, yeah. You froze for a second.
I think that there's a fundamental difference in the way that the French think of healthcare versus the Americans. Here, it's a very society. Sure, it's a shared responsibility in society to take care of everybody else. So we hear in the U.S. universal health care get batted around that term. Here, it's very much a reality. So while the system I think is better, even though if you go in a hospital here in Paris, it won't necessarily be as modern as, I don't want to say as clean, but you'll see there's some big differences between the equipment and that sort of stuff here in France than what you'll see in the U.S. It's more modern. But the system, I think is better here. I can go with my card, my healthcare card, and if I'm sick, they're going to take care of me. I know. I think I pay maybe €5 or something. But if I go to a pharmacy and I have a cold, they'll give me medication for free. And it's all part of that. Means that taxes are a little higher here. But what that means is that, as far as my health goes, the system has got my back. And that's a big difference, and that just means that my taxes are a little higher than yours will be in the U.S. But that I don't really have to worry about if I get sick, will that impact my financial well-being. So those sort of differences I think really point to the fundamental difference. The way people think about health and healthcare between France and the U.S. At least that's what I've seen so far. And but it's a big debate. It's an expensive system. Can it last? We're getting older. It's more expensive to take care of them. If fewer young people are working, less money goes into the system. Can people afford it? So that's a big system, but that's a big problem, I should say. But that's everywhere. So, without being a doctor or a healthcare specialist, my observations are purely as a taxpayer, and someone who is interested, who hears the political, we have an election coming up, so that's a big part of it. We just had one in the U.S., so that was a big part of it, but I recognize that mentality. A big difference in mentality between the French and the Americans. And, neither is right or wrong. It's just how you perceive your role in society towards its citizens. Does that answer more or less your question?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Do you want me to repeat it in French?
Can I give you another? Let's start with Kai.
Alright. Bonjour, monsieur. Je m'appelle Kai. Quelle est la différence entre cadre pour pour les démarrages dans les États-Unis et la France?
And you can ask it in English.
That's a very relevant question. That's a good one. I will tell you, I'll say this, that France...
Sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
I would say that France is a terrific place to get a company off the ground. There's a lot of support. There's, whether it's the city of Paris has supported institutions and organizations, associations to help entrepreneurs get off the ground. There's a system of, believe it or not, in France, there's a system of when you don't have a job, basically the French government pays you a couple years worth of your salary. I think it's 60% of your salary, which is a fantastic way to start a business. Because you always, your life, you can still pay rent. If you can't, there are some things obviously you can't do, but at least it's a good, you have the resources to be able to spend the time to start a business. The real problem here is that once your business gets off the ground, and this is the big difference between the U.S. and France. Once your business gets off the ground, it's much less interesting. It's hard to get rid of people. So when you build your team, and well, I'm feeling a little drunk today.
I know. I'm sorry, guys. Where the camera is showing you sideways. Hold on. Let me call you back. Can I call you back?
Okay.
And then let's call her back.
Can I get an answer?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Alright.
Well, everyone was distracting him.
What was your question?
Here we go.
What are the differences
We were
in the environment
distracting
first?
him.
Yeah, you were laughing.
Yeah, you were looking you up and down.
There we go. What? No, you were distracting. Hey, that's better.
Okay, good. Have you guys seen the ceiling? I mean, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? You guys are lucky too because it's sunny out, which has not been the case these last couple of days. Back to that question about entrepreneurialism, building a business here. Once your business gets going, once you make money, once you look to build your team, that's where it gets challenging to stay here. In France, it's very difficult to get rid of people who either, are hurting the team or aren't performing or whatever it is, which means that hiring people people are very cautious and fearful of hiring. And that's a problem when you are trying to, build an economy, grow a business, because if I want to hire somebody, obviously we don't know if it's going to work. And if I know that it's going to be really difficult, if not impossible, to get rid of them, I'd rather build my business in a country where at least I can, have that option of, rethinking the team. Taxes are another problem, not a problem, but they're this healthcare system I was talking about, well, that's all part of it. When you pay somebody a salary of about, let's say you pay somebody 50,000 euros, a salary, then your charge, the money that the company actually ends up paying out is 160% of that salary. So if I hired somebody today and I were going to pay them a salary of 50,000 euros, then my company would spend whatever it is, 80,000 euros. Because there are charges, there are taxes that go towards the healthcare system and everything like that are quite high. And so I don't think that in and of itself, if I can afford it, is a terrible thing. But it gets pretty expensive. Hiring one person is one thing, but if you have a whole staff of people, and you're paying them 50, but you're spending 80. On the other hand, let's stick with the positives.
the French people are super creative, especially the young generations today. Creative, they're efficient, they work hard. And you can feel that here in Paris, and especially running around the circles I am. Out you meet other entrepreneurs and like that, and that's a real motivator. Definitely exists in the U.S. also, but I think I went back and forth on this idea of coming back to the U.S. to build my business, but I decided that I'd stay here because museums are so important here, culture is so important here. The city, the state, they support it, they're active, and that's the kind of support that I was looking for. And it's not necessarily the case, or as much the case as it is in the U.S. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to stay here. Is that a helpful answer? Does that give you a feel for?
Oui, très bien. Gagné. Alors, are we in the gallery? He said it. He said it very, very good.
Okay.
Très bien. Are we in the gallery now, or do you want to field another question?
Not yet. I'm gonna go up. So can you guys give me a couple minutes? I'll call you right back.
Yep.
All right. Bye.
Bye. What?
I want to change my question.
Do it. I said you can change your question.
Can I rewrite it?
Yeah. What do you want to know?
I want to know how often he speaks French versus English while he's there.
He speaks almost.
That's what I figured, but I wasn't sure how often he would get the opportunity to speak.
Well, in Paris, everyone speaks English.
Exactly.
But his partner is French.
Oh.
She's actually from Martinique.
Wait, how was it?
I didn't know that she was French, Mackenzie. No, because there's a better place for his.
Both.
Because
a high school class.
What is your favorite piece of art?
That's a great question.
What is, like...
I think I have is it confusion when you have a bump on your bones?
It's a bruise. A contusion is a bruise, I think. These are excellent questions. I think he's giving good answers too, right? So I don't know if you already said, but the problem with a lot of these startups apparently is that once you start up and are successful in France, you leave, like the company leaves. And so for him, he has no, his partner is working with him, but she's not an official employee because he can't afford that yet.
She's working for free?
She is, yes.
I feel like when you ask them for help.
Our school does that.
What's piece or like piece of art, artwork or like how would I phrase that?
Well, do you want to skull, what do you?
Spell.
No, can I draw?
That was fast. Speed is speed word. Yeah, I did.
Ah, the restaurant.
Can you guys smell that?
Mmm.
Bakeries.
Steak frites.
Yeah. So this is the restaurant. You see the clock all the way at the end? That's one of two clocks in the museum, and we'll go towards the other one. But to get to that, we have to go through the Impressionist wing, and we start with a Picasso, I think, which isn't too bad.
No.
Picasso's in some cases it's a hit or miss, but this is the famed Impressionist wing. I'm just trying to keep my voice down a little bit so I don't bother anybody else. But as I'm sure you guys know, your Impressionists, whether it's Degas or Cézanne, Monet, Manet, Degas. These are Edgar Degas here. These are all of the guys who made their names at the end of the 1800s, early 1900s. They created a new style of painting, and there's a very famous art collector called Durand-Ruel who was sort of before his time, and he got to know them all, and he was the one who was behind the commercial success, and then with that came fame, and and now we have, you know.
Can you go a little closer to me?
Yeah, of course. So this is Pissarro, and Pissarro was known for these little. You see the little gestures, the like. It's not dots. It's not pointillism. We'll tell you all about pointillism, but it's, you know, it's these little sort of brush strokes that taken together. Alfred says play here. Sisley again and Pissarro. You can see that they all have a general. You know, when you walk around the gallery, you know, if you're here for an hour, you're going to start to see the same thing over and over again. But you got to keep in mind that it was in context of the times. It was all new. It was a new way of painting, and people's tastes were different, and so it was a little risky at the time. Today, obviously, if you own a Renoir like this one, you're never going to have to work again. And so it's, but it's up to you. You know, I don't know what your tastes are. I don't know if you guys have ever gone to see these paintings live.
Just to give you, hold on, just to give you a perspective, most of these artists, when they go for auction at Sotheby's or in the U.S., they sell for between $80 and $120 million. What?
Why do they sell them?
Museums don't sell them, but they're in people's collections. Rockefellers have a number of them.
So museums are not allowed. So there's all kinds of regulations around. Yeah, actually, you can't see here because of the reflection. This is Edgar Degas. Degas was known, D-E-G-A-S. He was known for focusing on sports in his paintings, on movement
as well
and sports.
Dancers.
And so dancing and horse racing and that sort of thing. And he did sculptures too. Many of these people didn't. So here, I'm going to show you a quick view here. Do you see all the way in the distance over there? I don't know if you guys can see from here, but that's Montmartre, the church all the way up the hill. And
so
then the
have you
Louvre
guys
over
ever
there.
seen the Moulin Rouge? The movie
That's all the way over there too.
So the Moulin Rouge was in Montmartre, and it was the art center of the Impressionist era. They were all, they partied hard. And that was
they showed it. Those were artists who were. What's actually very funny about it, but this goes beyond impressionists. When you think of like Picasso, for example, they spent a lot of. These were artists who had very little money, and so they would spend a lot of time in places like, and they would paint the scenes in brothels and things like that. And
the other kind of gentleman's club.
And it because artists, what do? They sit and they observe people. And so some of the most dynamic scenes back in their day were in kind of seedy neighborhoods. The only neighborhoods that they could afford to live in.
Could you find a piece and maybe stand there, because the connection is a little slow, so we're not.
Let's go with.
Are there any Van Goghs there?
Yeah, there's some Van Goghs here.
Because we have a request for a Van Gogh, and then why don't you ask your question?
Yeah, shoot.
There. Say hello.
Bonjour.
Je m'appelle.
Je m'appelle Paige.
He's in there.
Bonjour, Paige.
Hi. I changed my question.
Okay, so if you want, you can ask it in English. Just engage.
Okay.
Pourquoi est-ce que?
No,
Oh no, all right. Quel est votre peinture préférée?
Ooh.
I don't like
Just ask it and I'll take it away.
Okay, what is your favorite piece of art?
Can we say it in French?
But I just told you I didn't know how to
Quel
say
est
it.
votre
Quelle est votre
peinture préférée?
peinture préférée?
Très bien. Way to go, Paige.
Well asked. Very, very well asked. Thank you. I was thinking about that on the way over here, and I had real trouble with that with that question. I don't know if I can tell you guys that I have a favorite artist or a favorite painting. I found that I like abstract things more than I like, you know, scenes that we see here. I like to look at it.
Can you repeat that?
Oh yeah, I was saying that I think that I could tell you guys that I prefer abstract art versus you know, an actual park, you know, a painting of a park or a boat or, you know, a building or a, you know, nature, that sort of thing, because I like the idea of being able to look at a piece of art and sort of imagine or, you know, see things for myself and, you know, see how I feel, how it makes me feel, and that sort of stuff, as opposed to just seeing a painting. It's a boat. You know, okay, cool. But it doesn't really, you know, you can't really, your imagination can only go so far. I like photography. I think on the wall of my future, you know, palace, I'm probably gonna have a lot of photographs on the wall, because I think that, especially photographs where you capture people's reactions, emotions, that sort of thing, because those are original. And I enjoy looking at photography more. So sculpture I've gotten into a little bit, but not, you know, not a huge amount. Do I have a favorite artist or a favorite painting? I can't say I do. My reaction is, I don't get caught up in this whole idea that, you know, a big name means that the piece of art is, you know, unquestionably important. You show me a Picasso and I'll say, okay, cool, it's a Picasso, and okay, maybe it's kind of a funny perspective or something like that, but that doesn't mean to me that I must have, you know, one reaction or another. It might make me feel good or feel bad, or I might think it's awful, but I get to think that, and so that's kind of how I approach it. Let's put it this way: I have yet to see a piece of art and tell myself, I absolutely must have that over my couch. You know, unquestionably, really? This is the best thing that I've ever seen, and my reaction to it is so visceral that it has to be in my home, and I have to be able to look at it every day. And so it's a work in progress. You know, it's eventually, as I spend more time in museums, then maybe that'll come, and I'll learn to like I'll learn what my tastes really are. But I'm young, and I've got my whole life ahead of me, so. No, I'm kidding. But unfortunately, I can't give you a good answer, or an honest good answer. And so instead I gave you a 10-minute speech on how I think of art.
That was a great answer. Your parents have fun, like your family has some art, but
yeah, I think they were largely into that. I think that's where the influence came for abstract art. They were very much into that, you know, a painting with 3 colors, and it's supposed to be you know, a landscape, but it looks like some kid got hold of the paint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Je m'appelle Megan.
Bonjour.
Comme un entrepreneur, a jamais eu un moment où vous étiez vraiment effrayé de votre entreprise ne survivrait pas?
So did you get that, dude?
I got the gist of it. It was very good. What was there a moment where I was nervous or afraid for the well-being or the success of the project? Is that what it was?
Wait. Yes.
Is that?
Wait.
Okay. Well, yes. Yes and no. It's inherently a project. Throwing yourself into the, you know, as an entrepreneur, once you decide to go for it, there's no guaranteed success, and there are moments where you're worried and that you're questioning it, but that's part of the deal. That's, if you know, before you get to it, you have to realize that's going to be a big part of the process, is questioning every decision that you make, and you know, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and making mistakes. You're kind of failing is as good as succeeding, because failing at something, at a particular decision, means that you know that that's one thing that's not going to work, and so on to the next thing. The key is just not to let it. really bother you. You have to obviously do your homework before you get into it, before you decide, okay, I'm going to quit my job and spend my own money on doing something that I'm not even sure is going to work. But if if entrepreneurs, if people didn't do that, then we wouldn't get anywhere as people, as individuals or society or anything like that. So yeah, are there moments when I rethink certain decisions? Yeah, but luckily, and I think luckily I have yet to have that really deep, sort of, what am I trying to say? This moment where I'm like, whoops, was that did I make a mistake here? But that's also, I think that's because before I decided to jump into it, I did a lot of homework and I, wrote, a business plan, and I really thought it through, and I was really critical, and I talked to a lot of people, and at the end of it, it seemed too logical not to do it. There's too big a market, and there's too big an opportunity, and museums play a really important role in society. Not for people who, it's not to say you have to love art. It's not to say that you have to, come to a museum and, be quiet and do what, sort of act the way people expect people, to act in a museum. But that, they're community institutions. There are places you can come and have lunch and coffee and spend time with friends. And there's also that part of them that's kind of inspiring. Walk around, you look at paintings, it's creative, it might give you a new way of looking at something. And you walk out and you feel like you did something good. You spend your time in a productive way. And so, I've had moments where I've made decisions that were just flat out stupid. And at the time I was like, this is awesome, this is going to work. And then at the end of it, I can do better. And so far, I think I'm in the middle of the presentation. I think that there's, hold on a second, I'll show you what's going on. Everybody's wearing the same jacket.
Yeah, but if there was a flash mob while we were...
I don't know. Oh, by the way, I'll show you guys
That's
this.
a real thing.
So this is the other clock.
Oh, cool.
And this is the place. This is everybody's favorite place to take pictures. Unfortunately, it looks like there's some condensation on the windows, so you can't see anything out there. But there's a beautiful view beyond that.
Do you think could we maybe? I don't know how far of a walk it is for you, but do you think you could maybe show us the outside of the Louvre?
Let's. You know what? If you guys give me, I don't know how much time you have, but if you give me 15 minutes, I can call you from the pyramid.
What time do we?
We have 20 minutes. 22 minutes.
We have 22 minutes.
The challenge. You guys want to do that?
Would you like to see the outside of the Louvre?
Okay.
Is that okay? Be a little more polite.
Say bien.
Yeah. Okay. If that's okay, if you are open to it, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm totally open to it. I'm going to take the elevator. See you guys in 15 minutes.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Tim.
Cool. I wasn't being I was like, okay. I didn't.
You did a great job. So we may not be able to get to all the questions this time, but.
Mark the trail.
So, this is what started out literally as a little sort of protective wall of the city of Paris in the 1100s, so 1,000 years ago. And then it became the residency for the royal family, and now it's the most visited museum in the world, the Louvre. And it's beautiful, and there's a little park around it, which is typically French. That's the Place de la Concorde, that big wheel over there, and the Arc de Triomphe, which is even farther down there. You can see the Eiffel Tower. I think you can see the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And then all the people here braving the cold. And that's the pyramid, which was built recently. Not recently. I think late 80s, early 90s. By a Japanese or Chinese architect, and now it was built to accommodate 4 million visitors a year.
His name was Pei, right?
What's that?
Pei, I think his name was, the guy who built the
Pei,
building.
yeah, that's it, exactly. And it was built to accommodate 4 million visitors a year. Who knows how many visitors come to the Louvre each year?
Hey, is the whole thing around the back part of the Louvre too?
Yeah, this is all, so Kai asked, is the whole thing around the back part of the Louvre?
Is the what?
The whole thing, I mean, I think
The whole thing.
The whole building.
It's
around
all
the
part
back,
of the Louvre.
Yeah, it's all.
There are galleries up, down, and left and right.
Just the
There's actually two museums here. Over there, there's one museum.
Just the
It's called the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, which is basically decorative arts.
So I think I think it's good that we're meeting because they were under the misinterpretation that the pyramid was the extent of the museum.
That what?
Just Kai.
Just Kai. So this, before Versailles, this was the palace that they lived in.
So this was the palace, and then Versailles was built because Versailles used to be an old hunting lodge, and a king decided, King Louis XIV decided, you know what? I want to make it a bigger place, and I want to build a bigger house, and he built Versailles to accommodate him and his court. So no, two different things. But it's really an impressive place. It's really, and it's very beautiful. But today it's got almost 10 million people coming here. They a little less because of what happened here in Paris in November. What is that? A year and a bit ago. So they took a bit of a hit, but still the most visited museum in the world, and you can see a cute little French fire truck. That's one thing that I always found very funny. Is I lived in New York for a long time, and the fire trucks there are huge, and the ones here are tiny little, cute little toy kind of fire trucks, and but they work just fine. So
well,
anyway,
Tim, how much is a gallon of gas in France, or a liter?
So a gallon is about a liter, 4 liters in a gallon is about €1.30 or €1.40. So it's $5 a gallon.
Which is why all the cars, if you see, are very small.
Small cars, small tanks, about 10 gallons a tank or something.
Diesel though,
and there's a lot of electric cars. You can see the counts, for example, like this one here, are all electric. And there's a lot of benefits to having an electric car. You get tax cuts, you get parking, you can park in favorable spots and all that sort of stuff. So people are very conscious of the environment here. You know, they don't like it. They don't waste electricity. They don't. I mean, they do it, but I mean a lot less than in other places. So.
Do you want to ask your question?
Just some differences.
Okay, so we field some more questions while you walk around.
Yeah, please.
Thank you again for taking so much time to talk with us.
Hey, this is fun for me too, guys. Hello.
Hi. Comment l'exposition à la culture américaine affecte vos aspirations?
La culture américaine.
Oui.
I think for me, it's not one culture over another. I think the benefit that I've had is to be able to gain exposure to several, and to be able to sort of pick from the best things of the American culture, French culture, and apply those to my character or something. But also, I think you take them all together. That's where the benefit comes in. That's where you sort of realize that there are some things in the U.S. that I appreciate more than here, and there's some things here that I appreciate more than the U.S. And there's something that in Latin America you'll see some different ways of doing things. In Asia and everything like that. Obviously, I'm not going to live everywhere around the world to pick and choose, but I like the U.S. What the U.S. has that the French don't have, and I'm speaking in very broad terms, is it's always sunnier on the other side. It's the sort of optimism and this kind of entrepreneurial spirit that the U.S. has. That here, there's a portion of society that has it. Kids are having it more and more. Young people here are having it more and more. but in the U.S., you just can't beat it, you know. And so when I go and meet museums, in a lot of cases, they're funded by the state. So people who work there are like government employees, and they don't want to do anything more than they have to do. And you just kind of want to shake them and like snap out of it. You know, you guys need to find new ways to do things, and there are better ways to do things. And so they look at me and they think, stupid American. But they know I'm right, and they know that, you know, that American sort of way of, that American mentality has a place here. You just need to beat it into them a little bit.
JK.
It's nicely, of course, but it's tough to beat it into them. So I you know, so when it comes to culture, I think that there isn't one good answer. There isn't one good way of doing things. And I think that the more you can expose yourself to different ways of doing things and different people and different viewpoints, and which ultimately that's what makes up a culture, you know, with time, that's how culture develops, then, you know, you got yourself a winning combo. So that's what I think about. That's how I view culture, and that's what I take away from having lived in the U.S. and now living in France, and I think it's worked pretty well.
So we have one more question from someone who's had an existential awakening thanks to your class, to this class.
Shoot. Bonjour.
Je m'appelle Megan aussi.
Bonjour Megan.
Combien de temps êtes-vous parlé anglais et combien de temps êtes-vous parlé français?
Alors, French is actually my very good question. Thank you. French was my first language, actually. I was born not very far from where I'm standing now, and I stayed here until I was 4. So kindergarten, all that jazz, was all in French. And then I went over to the UK, and I was in a French school there. So until I was 7, I think it was all in French. And then I started speaking English, and then I moved to the U.S. With a very thick British accent. I got made fun of ceaselessly by all my American friends, and then eventually they knocked it out of me, and now here I am with my American accent. So at home it was always French and English between my mom and dad. So while French was technically my first language, there was always, you know, English was always there and present, and now my days are between the two, even though I'm mostly in French these days. Well, I'm in Paris, but when I travel, it's mostly in English, because pretty much everybody, Germany, you know, Spain, Italy, before they speak French, they're going to speak English. That's the answer to that question. So now I have to learn a third language, because that's going to take a little time.
I think that's awesome. I think we're about to end up class, so
okay.
I don't want.
Let's next time, you guys, we'll go to the Louvre, unless you guys have another idea for another destination,
next week.
And we'll visit it together.
That's a lot to ask.
Yeah. Well, maybe some of these guys can come to the one in the auditorium we're going to do. Because this class ends at the end of this week.
Oh goodness! Is that a good thing or a bad thing, guys?
Good thing or bad thing?
Was Mr. Hoare?
Not for this class, but for everything else, it's very good.